due respect, you are, when you talk high school, right?
Yeah.
High school, I'd love to hear just teachers. I'd like to hear teachers at elementary, middle school level as well. Get their, I'd like to just hear what they think about this. You know?
But it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
This is happening. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter whether they like it or
Whether they
don't
like
like
it or
it
not.
or agree
Yeah.
or disagree.
You don't have a choice in it.
All right. Moving on to our THS profiles. Before we do, would anybody on the board have an objection to adding a school community session for those people in the audience that would like to speak on this at the end of our informational sharing session? So that
What do you want to hear?
we have some people in the audience that would like to speak on it, but we have already passed our
Yeah.
school community session. I mean, if we can add that, another one at the end, I think I said that wrong before. I think I said add an informational sharing session. We just want to talk about it. If we can add another public participation section after we finish our informational sharing so that they can speak.
Yeah, so moved.
Second by Fiona. It's another amendment to the agenda. Any discussion on that? All those in favor? Okay. Do we have the sign-up sheet? Is it still out?
Yes.
If anyone in the, I'm sorry, opposed? You're opposed? All right, Vincent is opposed. I'm sorry. If anybody would like to add your name to the list, and as soon as we get done with this, we can put your comments in. Okay, THS school profiles.
It was asked at the previous meeting to, the board could receive profiles similar to the ones that they have received in the past, getting some idea. We put in the past, we put in the profiles from the past 2 years. We also included the college acceptances from 2010, 2011, and I also have it from 2012. Sorry, I did not include it in this one. But what this, and it really isn't a THS school profile, it's really a profile of the senior class. It goes to colleges because they'd like to see admission decisions from the past, how well our students did on the SATs. It also takes a look at how many students participate and how they performed on their AP tests, but it does not include juniors because it just looks at a profile of the graduating senior class.
Well, it does have SAT information in it, and there may be students who are in advanced placement or ACE classes.
In the other two, I was just going by the chart where, for this year, for the comparison. You know, this is the general information, but this does go to colleges. That's the purpose of it. We do have the 2012 acceptances that I can give to you, but then this was the profile that has been used in the past.
And Joanne can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but this is a document that's routinely prepared by the high school counseling staff. And part of the reason the complete document for 11-12 is not included in here is that they generally wait until the fall so that they can close out the information and they have all of the score information reported to them. So on the summary sheet, those are items that are pulled directly from these profile sheets, and we just put them in that format so that you can compare them across time and you can see areas in which there's been improvement or improvement in participation or improvement in scores over the last couple of years. So the 2011-12 complete school profile will be available probably, would you say, by the end of September?
Yes.
And that could be shared with you at the October meeting if you wish to see it.
Okay.
What's ECE?
Early college experience. Those are the courses that are done in collaboration with UConn for college credit.
Fiona?
AP enrollment in 9-10 was 131, but 10-11, 87. Is that because of reduced class offerings or lack of eligibility of the students?
Well, I guess there's a combination of things. If you notice, there's also a decrease in the number of students in the senior class that year, and probably in the overall school population. So it may be a combination of overall school declining enrollment. It may be the inability to offer all of the same AP classes in one year, for example. AP chemistry and AP physics are often alternated. Some students may elect to take one, but would not elect to take the other one. So it's probably due to a variety of factors. Obviously, that's the AP enrollment, the advanced placement class enrollment and testing, the early college experience enrollment. Those are numbers that we'd like to see growing and growing and growing. And I don't believe that there are any hard and fast rules that prohibit a student from registering in an AP class if they express an interest and they work with their counselors to determine that that's an appropriate challenge for them to take on. Is that, would you say that's correct?
Right, it's based originally on the teacher recommendation. And so that's the preliminary placement. But if a student advocates and parent comes in and there's discussions about the level of work and so forth, then they can in fact take it. There are a lot of, I think, different reasons why the numbers fluctuate though. I mean, some have to do with the enrollments. I would say none of the numbers have been because we've not dropped any AP courses. But there are some courses that are offered alternate years. Latin, for example. And of course, that's a very small number. But so that's part of the reason. And I've spoken to Sue, and I'd like to work on a profile that really is a profile of THS in a broader sense and include more data that we then can start really comparing from year to year and being 9-12 inclusive, as opposed to just.
So do you think that scheduling doesn't have anything to do with this drop in enrollment?
Probably has something to do with it, but it's hard to tell how much.
You'll see it in this year's, the 11-12, because there was the conflict of the AP classes where a lot of them were off at the same period, and students had to choose. Yeah, so it definitely.
Right, and there will always be, I'm sorry, but there will always be some students who will not be able to take every AP course that they want to if we have a single course offering. You know, some things we have multiple sessions, so if you've got a conflict, or sections rather, so if you've got a conflict period 4, you can take a period 2. But if there's only one section of something offered, and that's when you really want to take your UConn or AP history, you know, then there will be conflicts. And so I mean, that's just a fact of.
Is it a priority in the master schedule to make those AP courses available to as many kids as possible?
Yes, absolutely. That's the weighting. That's the way the system is rolled out.
Does guidance track
scheduler.
percentages of what kids can't take classes because of scheduling conflicts?
We
Is
do
there
that.
any
In fact,
tracking
that's what
we can see?
we're working on right now. If we see that, you know, 2 kids were not denied, we look at the requests that were not filled, and then we find what course were they trying to get into, why could they not get into that, and is it possible to make any switches now with the courses before we commit the schedule and then say, okay, now we have to change an individual's schedule for all periods. So that's what we're doing during this period of time right now.
Yes, Andy.
Checking that.
I mean, you're kind of just overlooking the percentages here, year to year. Again, we don't know what 11, 12 are, but to go from 131 to 87, and then to go on the college credit enrollment, you know, you're dropping almost close to 50% less college credit enrollment for pretty standardized senior class that goes from 265 to 239. Those numbers really are alarming, I think. I mean, if it was like a 5% variation, even a 10%, you might not think too much of it. But when you're starting to look at 30 to 50% drop in your, what I would consider probably your top students, you'd have to wonder what, I don't know what the exact word I should use, who actually creates an environment for kids to enroll in these classes. It's thing that I'm
Could also
alarmed.
be something that I brought before the board earlier to Andrews, it could also reflect how many children or students are opting to go to other schools.
And what kinds of kids are going to go to other schools.
But no, we're just looking at, okay, I see what you're
Yeah.
saying.
They leave
We're-
in ninth grade.
Yeah, but we're looking at a senior class to a senior class. You know, we're looking at the same senior, I mean, those
But
kids that
no,
are.
we're not.
And not
No,
all
where
the
we are, we're
statistics
looking at a
right now.
senior class, we're not looking at a freshman,
But, no,
sophomore.
but you're looking at them.
The end results, what you're saying of 3
It's
years earlier.
Who leaves, yeah, who left at the end of eighth grade to move on to other, whether it's the Oliver Wilka, Wamogo, the Region 7 program, your magnet schools.
Yeah, yet if you look at the SAT scores, and I assume that these test scores or the SAT scores, they're actually improving, which is great.
Yeah.
So,
Or is that
so
the number?
why is your students' test scores getting better?
That's the
But
main-
this has something to do with administration as far as getting these classes available to these students. And I'm not positive if Mrs. Peterson, that's what she's been talking about several times. I may not understood what she was saying, but I thought she was very concerned as she talked many times to the board that these opportunities for students has been declining over the last several years. And I just wonder if this data actually validates what Mrs. Peterson has been saying. There is less
There was a
opportunity.
situation this year, knowing, I mean, I can tell you firsthand, that a number of AP classes were all offered in the same period, and the students were forced to select which one they wanted to take. So your overall AP enrollment went down. Because if you applied for 3 AP classes, but they're all offered the same period, you could only take one.
Which is why I asked that question about the master schedule.
Right. I was only saying from I know, because I know someone very closely who had to go through that situation, and she, you know, it's, you have to pick. You have to pick, which one do you want? You want to take this one or this one? You can't, you know, they're the same period.
And it's been a board discussion for the last couple of years, and I don't know what the board can do to work with the administration to somewhat rectify that problem, so as to, without spending more money, how to get that so-called master schedule
I
more
would recommend
functional
that under
for.
comments for the good of the order or items for upcoming agenda, that you make a recommendation that you might want to see more information come forward at our next meeting on the master schedule and how these particular classes are laid out in that schedule.
Then last question, knowing that the board has been concerned about this issue for the last couple of years, based on what assistant superintendent talks about as far as curriculum, have you done anything to assure us that this upcoming academic year will be more satisfactory to students' needs and wants as far as getting these courses in a more efficient manner? Has that been worked on?
Process, right.
But-
I mean, we're concerned about it. I'm not trying to be, I'm not trying to evaluate it. Just saying, we know that it's a problem. We'd like for it to be addressed.
Under items for upcoming, you ask for us to bring it next month, we'll put it on the agenda for next month. Give them a chance to put the
Okay.
information together and bring it forward instead of, because right now they're gonna, you know, I think I
Right.
remember, or they can give you the actual figures next month. It's before school starts, we'll still be able to discuss it.
And hopefully, if it's a problem and you have a problem, you come back to the board and ask if there's anything we can do to help you or. Okay, thanks.
Well, actually, go ahead and ask a question.
Well, I just wanted to add that it is a scheduling, I mean, scheduling is one aspect of this, but also, and that's what I was alluding to when we want to look at data over time, we want to work on the number of students who take these advanced courses. And so we have to work on the preparation of the students so that we have increasing numbers of students who are prepared to take them. So it's multiple facets here, it's not.
That's why we're not
it's
trying to
not.
put you on the block right
Right.
now, give you,
Okay.
come, bring it back next month so that you don't expect you to have all those numbers off the top of your
Okay.
head.
But going forward, I mean, I think the board has the right to expect from the administration, you know, definitely more solid information about why we have these dropouts rather than just guesswork of assuming that they're going to.
Well, not really. All we asked for them was to prepare for us the profiles. There's no way they're gonna be able to anticipate what question we're gonna ask. So this is an informational sharing session.
Yeah.
This really is not supposed to be a discussion. We're not even supposed to be talking about it. They're supposed to give us a presentation, and if we wanna turn it into a discussion item, we bring it back next month as a discussion item.
All right.
This is them giving us the data so we can digest it, and
Okay.
then we can
Then it's
formulate
fair
what we
to
wanna
it's
know.
fair for
for
board
the
members
next
to
one.
comment on the presentation then, isn't it?
What's that?
It's fair for board members to commentate on the presentation. And my comment is, our senior administrators should be able to tell this Board of Education why we have so many kids dropping out, where they are going, where they are choosing to go, and start to look at and have a very solid handle on what that means going forward for this district and this Board of Education and our budgeting process and our testing process and our scheduling process. We have the right to expect that they have a real grasp on these trends.
We do.
Well, then how many kids are going to Amogo and why? Is that increasing?
Paul, you
where
can't
they're
expect them
going?
to have these numbers.
I can
Do
tell
you know
you.
how many things they go through in a day? You know, I mean, you
I
can't
can
possibly
expect
have
them.
everything that you have to spit out. You don't ever have to look anything up?
That's a but that is
But-
a profile of your district.
And we're not,
It's an extremely significant part of the
all right,
profile.
we're gonna move on.
Can we move it to the next meeting
Yes,
to
that's
get
what
more information on
we
those
just had the
specific
conversation to
categories?
have him asked to bring it forward with all that information for the next meeting. Okay,
Yeah.
small learning community.
Just go into, we at the school improvement level, it's not like, it's coming before the board for the first time, but we talked about this at the school improvement committee, so we're not like, it's not like we're just giving this type of feedback to the administration unexpectedly, I mean, it's just an ongoing dialogue, and we hoped at the school improvement level, we would get it to the board to discuss, but the last point of it though is, we want these discussions to actually lead to something, to be, we don't want just to have the administration tell us the numbers and then we just move on. We want to know, now that you've told us the numbers, what do we as a board need to do as far as planning and budgeting these situations to have the school district evolve. So when do you want to really? I mean, we're in end of July now.
When they come forward, I've asked each of the subcommittee chairs to send to me, prior to agenda setting, items they would like to see on the agenda. And no offense, but I have gotten nothing from school improvement yet to add to the agenda. So I don't know whether to put it under informational, whether to put it under discussion, I don't know. So when I get suggestions to me from administration, we put them under informational sharing because I don't know what they are. So if the school improvement committee would like them to be a discussion, we want to take action on something, if I know that, then I can add it to that section of the agenda. But unfortunately, under the current format, it's under informational sharing until we know that it's going to be an action item. And then when it's going to be an action item, we move it to, we can take a vote right now to move this from the informational sharing to the discussion, and we can take a vote and move on something. But I mean, based on the information that I had when the three of us sat down to do the agenda, these were just suggestions we were given. I don't know where they belong in the agenda, other than we put them that we were going to give a presentation.
And what they've done is great, and Cheryl's comments are very enlightening that we're losing a certain top tier student for the last several years. The data shows it, and when you see the data and then you start seeing, well, AP classes are diminishing, then how do you sell those 8th graders to tell them, by the way, we're increasing AP classes, we're making it more accessible, as opposed to letting parents and stuff learn of this discussion and go, gee, AP classes are starting to, you know, it's harder to take AP classes, maybe I don't want to send my kid to the tournament. It's just the interconnection, that's why we're having this dialogue. These are priorities that we, as a board, make if we're concerned about it. If we're not concerned about them, we just let it pass. But I mean, Cheryl's concerned about it, I know she is.
I think we're all concerned,
Right.
I really do. I just, one of the discussions last night was and it's happened many times on this board, we can't just throw a hand grenade in the middle of the room. We have to give the opportunity to ask the question and give them the opportunity to bring the data back to us, or we're gonna just react on what is believed or perceived to be the fact, but it's, well, I believe this is the reason. We can give them the opportunity to actually give us the reason, and then we know. I mean, we're gonna base a decision on fact instead of on someone's best recollection. And that, the comment, or my comment on it was, let's give them the opportunity to get us the best information they can, so we can make the best decision we can. And then when we have it, you know, we can move forward with it.
I think, first of all, the reflection of the numbers here might be what it is school choice. The Northwest corner has not been dealing with what the state is calling school choice. We haven't had to deal with it. There are no magnet schools in this area. There's nothing else that would cause families, the closest ones are in the Hartford area. What we are now beginning to experience is what the Hartford area experienced in the year 2000, where a great flow back and forth, which was part of the Chef case, was that children from the suburb would come into Hartford and children from Hartford would go out to the suburb. And parents here, for whatever reason, are saying, maybe I want a smaller school. You look at the size of your Lamogos and your Region 7s and even Region 10, 100, 200, students in a classroom, or they offer the agriculture component, or they offer, at all the local technical, but smaller environments. And so, even though our students might have been at TMS, they look at THS as a much bigger school. So, and it's people's perception that we have to work with also. The fact that there may not be the choices and options at THS that are available in these smaller schools. So that's one of the things that we're dealing with. Nobody had a choice of another school that their child could attend. And now, and it's going to even open even wider with the new state law. The second thing is, this is an information sharing. What I'd like to be able to say is, okay, next time I'll come back for discussion. Let's go around the table. What questions? Now, given the information we've presented tonight, what further questions would you like to have administration respond to give you the extra details, the exact numbers? Yes, I can tell you 55 students are now paying tuition at Ramosa for them. So, we've got that information. If we don't, we'll get it for you, and so we can respond to the questions you have. But if it's an information, then the next time for discussion, we can bring back the added information, and then you could have a more knowledgeable, background experience to go with. So that's just.
So can we forward our questions to you, and then you'll compile a list for them by Friday? A deadline for when we should get our questions in?
Well,
Or we could do it, I'm sorry.
yeah, we can do it next week, next Wednesday. No, give them time to think about it. Give them time to just, to come up with it, and then they can, feed the questions in. You can feed the questions directly to Cheryl. Just CC me on
Or to Deb even. We've got 3. Deb will make sure I get them, and Kathy.
it. Okay, let's move on to number 4, Small Learning Communities, 9th Grade Academy. Oh, I'm sorry, number 3, comparative information online learning programs.
The request was made at the last board meeting for us to begin to assemble some information about other online content providers other than the one that is currently has completed the pilot year and is currently being used in our summer school program at Torrington High School. And the first page of this information is a partial list of some of the different providers that are out there. These were gleaned off of a search and probably represent a fifth, the sixth, the 20th of the companies. It's a rapidly growing field. Some of them, many of them are configured quite differently, and what seems like a simple question about which one is the best choice or which one is the best value, which you should say, well, this one is really not that easy to answer. Just as we're going to see that the answers to many of your questions about why are students dropping out and where are they going and why are they going other places, they're not simple answers. They're very complex answers. So in order to begin to frame an answer to that question about which one is the best value or which one is the right choice, on the next page there is a chart that we started to assemble that compares some of the major features of the different programs to show that they're not apples to apples. Many of the programs have different origins. Some of them, for example, like the Florida Virtual Learning or Michigan Virtual Learning, are state level, run by state departments of education. Others are managed by education service agencies like BOCES, which is an organization in New York State, which is a very, very large organization. Some of these online learning programs are operated by districts, and many of them are private commercial vendors, and some of them are small-scale independent vendors. So who actually is behind them varies tremendously, and the person who is sponsoring the platform is the one who sets the rules about how much it costs to participate and what kinds of programming is available through their product. There are also a variety of pricing structures. Some are billed on a per student, per course, per semester basis. For example, we had students who were participating in the Connecticut Virtual Learning platform, and it was $600 for one student to take one semester of one course. So the cost of that student completing the course was $1,200 for one student. And on the other hand, in the platform that we're utilizing now in the summer school for a cost of $700, a number of different students could take advantage of that seat and access a number of different courses over time. So once again, the pricing structure is another factor that would play into consideration if we're selecting a program. Another factor that would play into our consideration would be the comprehensiveness of what that program has to offer. We notice with most of the private commercial vendors right now, they're adding curriculum all the time, adding more and more and more courses. They're adding greater grade spans, they're adding more AP courses, they're adding more options so that they can be competitive and they can be attractive to the market. Some of these programs are completely online. You can go to school through these online vendors. Some of them offer supplemental courses. Some of them are very attractive to students who are being homeschooled. Some of them are being used for very specific purposes like credit recovery, such as the pilot that we conducted last year. You also see variation in the type of instruction that can be delivered using these programs. As we said, some are fully online where you never have to see a teacher other than the person that you communicate with through your computer program. Many of them are blending online and face-to-face, so part of it's online, but they check in with a real teacher in case there are problems or questions, or in order to participate in face-to-face kinds of events like workshops or projects. And then there are some that are fully face-to-face where the online component is used as an enrichment. All of these programs also come with their own specific staffing models. For example, the programs that are primarily online, you can basically run them by just hiring a paraprofessional to be in the room all day. But in others, it's more effective and it's going to yield better student results if there are tutors or certified teachers, or whether you have teachers or program administrators who are doing it as part of their contractual duties. For example, they teach 3 face-to-face classes, but then they also supervise 2 online courses. So when you're trying to make a decision about which one is the best, you have to tailor the features of the product, the origin of the product, the pricing structure of the product, and the kind of instructional experience that you want for your student into that determination. So the easy question about which one is the best value is arrived at by working your way through this process. So in addition to that, I've listed other characteristics of instructional models, student-centered instruction, school considerations, and so on. And the following page, which is sort of the last part of this presentation, was a sheet that was presented to the School Improvement Committee many months ago when we were looking at 2 finalists for the product that we selected to see how they compared. So on the basis of the cost of the online learning platform, the professional development that would be necessary in order to get it up and running, the staffing that would be necessary for it, and then additional expenses. This was the process that we went through at that time, comparing just 2 products that we had identified as finalists in order to make a decision about the product that we went with. So there is a lot of information to be taken into account. I think to our credit, we're cognizant of all of the different components and factors that are related to it. And we're able to try as much as possible to compare apples to apples and to try to select between products that we feel are extremely cost effective but are also extremely effective in terms of promoting student learning.
Question. The original request also included, well, Superintendent O'Brien used to call high-performing districts, what they were using. Do we have information on what other Connecticut high-performing districts are using?
I don't remember that being part, but I can search that information for you.
Part of the prep when we decided which
Yeah.
one, Sue had given a whole list of which school districts were using.
Which ones?
For example, I do have information, which I did not include in the packet, of all of the districts in the state of Connecticut that are currently using the Odyssey Ware program that we're invested in right now. That list is expanded to, I think, over 70 districts. Part of what complicates the answer to that question is that many of the so-called high-performing districts got on this bandwagon many years ago, and some of them have multi-year commitments to vendors who are now not the best pricing structure or not the best game in town. So
Right.
for example, I know that many of the Farmington Valley schools have been using virtual high school, but there are other commitments that are involved in that in terms of having teachers trained and working out arrangements with the union as to how you're going to count being a virtual high school teacher in order to get access for your students as part of your teaching assignment. And then there are other districts that have dabbled in the Connecticut virtual learning, but are now saying, well, now the market is wide open, it's more competitive, and we're choosing to move to other products.
And that was precisely where I was going with this, is trying to, again, right from the beginning, own as little as possible. Because the discussion was to continue down the road with, where we are now with this vendor. And I was trying to delay making any commitments, or delay making commitments as long as possible along that road. And I was wondering if over the course of this last year, if there's been any additional information now that we've run it, had some dry run and experience with this, if there's anything, that we know now about this program or about other programs like this that should cause us to pause and consider other options.
Well, that's not really a catch-22, but part of what answers your question is the fact that many of the very competitive commercial vendors are on rolling one-year contracts, so you can always jump off if you wish to do so. And there was another part to that I wanted to answer. The other part is that there is an advantage to staying with a vendor for more than just brief fling, because over the months or the period of time that you have the product in place, your staff becomes more proficient in knowing how to use all of the features of the program. Your students become proficient, they talk it up, they know what they're getting into, they're more amenable to signing up for the next course or the next course or the next course because it has that level of familiarity, and your staff has grown in their proficiency in terms of what the program can do and in terms of the customizations they've made in order to make it more responsive to their student needs. So in some ways, you know, you need to keep your options open, and we do that through the one-year renewable agreements. But on the other hand, there are some advantages to sticking with something in order to get the most out of it.
And we do carefully watch the different types of technology and programs and things. We started out with what we call Alert Now, and that's our information sending out to our parents, small schools, whatever. However, our principals can become more proficient in its use. However, this year we found a program, because we only keep a contract for a year, with another program that was like a third of the price, and it also works with Power School. So we don't, with our previous one, we had lists of people, and we call it out, and then we get a ton of calls saying, look, take our name off. By going to this other one, it'll go into Power School, and we'll be able to change it right away. So we're being more efficient, and we're saving money. So we would be doing that with programs such as this. I think one of the best things that have come out in late spring, Sue had an opportunity for the teachers to really take time and study the courses that are being offered on Odyssey, where many of the teachers came away saying,
I'm stealing lessons off of there and
Yeah.
getting back to my face-to-face classrooms.
and that's a goal, so that we see even more combined learning for our students. So again, how do we get them prepared for
The chemistry teacher said
type
that.
of assessments that are coming down?
Right, so you still feel comfortable going forward with this vendor?
Well, we do have a contract until February, January.
The end of January for the first group of licenses, and then into the following year. But they're just growing and growing and growing. They're getting better. They've added more content. They have great technical support. They do a lot of online training. They're really doing a great job.
And we'll continue to give you the monthly updates of how many courses were passed, how many students participated, for a real little bit. We've been able to add a couple more weeks to the summer school program, so just because of the response. We have 2 classrooms of 25 students.
Yeah, we have 50 students in the first section. We can keep up with demand.
Right, well, my final thing on this whole process right now is just, if you, the administrators, could, if you get to a point where you come to the proverbial fork in the road, where the board would have to invest heavily in this to take it to the next level, you know, versus another system that you may hear from your inside sources that say, you know what, actually, this is a little more expensive, but it's a much better. Please bring it in front of the board, you know, that decision. Don't just assume that it's just simply going to be dollar for dollar, that, you know, that, because I think we're all on the same page here, that once we finally commit to this, we're committing in a big, big way, and we don't want to be pennywise pound foolish on this decision, so.
Even during our retreat for the past 2 days, the mantra is, if there is something else that you want to do differently within your schools, to principals, what's going to change? We can't keep everything that we've been doing and add things. You know, how are we going to change and grow as a learning community?
Yeah. You know, as Dan would tell you, you know, as we start going down, the tentacles get deeper and deeper and deeper, then we won't be able to get out of this, and so just want to be aware every step when we take that next big step, that the whole board is comfortable with it, and you're comfortable with it, teachers comfortable with it, so that's all.
And this also provides, again, when I was talking about choice, this provides a choice for students.
No, I get that part of it, it's just vendors I'm concerned about, that we're with the right one.
Can you look at the AP offerings versus the scheduling potential conflicts? And what the curriculum of the AP classes are in relation to the AP classes that we currently offer?
Our current vendor offers a lot of AP classes.
If when you bring to us
Sure.
next month the AP scheduling, and can you address how the curriculum of the AP classes that we're struggling to fill because they're you know, scheduling problems, where you have them in the same period. Is there a way that these kids can do it online and get the credit?
If there's
college
space, I mean, and that's the limiting factor, and I think that's what Paul's alluding to, is that as we find a product that we like and we're having success with, and demand for it grows, and we wish to add more seats.
Want to know the capacity and
Right.
the ability to provide it, and then we'll determine what we need with space. Let's find out if they have it and it matches.
Yep, this particular vendor develops courses that are aligned with national standards, and then the course of AP in the area of AP classes aligned with the test blueprint. So they're going to be a rigorous and challenging and appropriate course of study if students are able to get a seat in order to complete the AP course.
And they'll match the colleges that we currently get credit from?
I would imagine so, because this is, the
Well,
course
just
is
when
the
you bring-
preparation, you still have to take the AP
Right, I
exam at the
understand.
end of it,
But
so.
when you bring it back to us next month, we
Okay.
can just look at that.
Question.
And we have to have more seats.
My concern with our dialogue tonight is, will the administration and the school district have time in the next month to assess the needs of kids who are you reaching out to the kids, and do you know what kids are already saying, I have this conflict, I want to do an AP chemistry and I want to do an AP physics, I can do the physics, right, and with a teacher, but I won't be able to do it with a teacher. Do we have the ability? I think we should have a standard so that kids who are literally caught in that dilemma because of scheduling can do this online. We don't want it to be their first choice. It's just that once they work through
It's a
the
fall.
schedule and the administration has determined that is a problem, then will we be able to do that for these kids this upcoming year?
This board has already addressed that in the online learning policy that was passed in the previous year. But we have good information about students whose requests couldn't be filled. And at this point, the limiting factor is not having enough capacity or enough seats to allow all of those students to enroll, because the board policy indicates that there is a priority list in terms of who gets access to those seats. Students who are trying to graduate, followed by students who are in credit recovery, followed by students who are doing it for enrichment, or rather students whose course request couldn't be met, followed by students who are seeking enrichment. And that's already been memorialized in your policy.
Okay. My question is, we as a board, I think we have a little consensus here that we would like to go in this direction for this upcoming year. Is it a matter of money? Is it a matter, how much money are we talking? Is that going to be
Okay,
based
let
on,
us bring us
can you
how
work
many
these
in
things
the-
through and then, because we want to be proactive for this upcoming year. I
Right, so
assume.
as the policy states, how many fall in the category of,
Yes.
you know, not gonna
Credit
graduate?
recovery.
Credit recovery, and
Right.
then write down the line, how many, and then we
AP.
can determine how many
Yeah.
more we would need.
And we don't know that there's an AP problem, but if we can somehow reach out in the next month so that you can come forth and we can somehow alleviate that problem at the beginning of the school year, I think that's what the board consensus would like to see.
Not every student needs to make credits is suited to this or will want to take this, so.
We just want to
Yeah,
get
get-
the
get
But
you in
it's
the
a,
ballpark.
right, okay, right.
Yeah.
Next. Small learning communities, ninth grade academy.
What has happened is that we've met with Joanne. Sue has made a template of all the steps that need to be taken to achieve the small learning community. Took a look at what's already in place, what yet has to be done. And Joanne has decided exactly which steps she was going to take. I didn't bring the full template with me tonight, I thought I had it. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I did have that, okay? But, you know, the things, the different areas that Joanne has to think about, the high school has to think about is physical space, the curriculum, instructional options, special programming features, schedule, teacher collaboration, staff in administration, staffing with teachers and staffing with support, such as your guidance counselors, your social workers, your special education paras, psychologists, and anyone else who offers. So what we've done was that we went through this with Joanne, highlighted what's already there, the next steps that she would like to take, and then what will be implemented for the fall. But she is moving forward with Grade 9 Academy in the smaller community. Joanne, do you want to add anything about with your Grade 9? I just want to give her an opportunity.
Well, we know we want to focus on improving that transition year. That's key, because if students are successful in 9th grade, more than likely they're going to be successful in the next 3 years. Again, realizing that the need for preparation is key. If we're talking about ultimate achievement at the 4 years hence, we want to build and fortify our incoming and that very key foundation year. So given these design factors of curriculum, yes, so we're going to work with the existing curriculum, but we're going to give teachers common planning time to make sure that they can make connections between their courses and provide opportunities for them to develop interdisciplinary units when possible. This connects with collaboration and with the whole idea of authentic learning experiences, which was one of the commendations and recommendations from NEASC, that we continue to work in this regard. For instructional options, to make sure we embed study skills and students who are struggling, to identify them early on and get them in a tutoring, some in-school tutoring, as well as to try to make sure that every teacher makes known their out-of-school, that either they're before school or after school, when are they available for extra help. Make sure that every 9th grader and parent knows that. Work on 9th grade team building, connections to the school. All students, we're working on student success plans, which is the same as, it's sort of an extension of our advisor-advisee program, which in common terms might be referred to just as homeroom, but it's much more than that, because it's one teacher making connections with small groups of students. We're going to be utilizing much more of a positive behavior, a PBIS approach. Again, this is in conjunction with NEASC, with the state in terms of improvements for school climate, and that connects instruction, classroom management, positive school discipline, and effective academic instruction. So it pulls all three of those together. And the focus is on prevention and proactive steps as opposed to the reactive, responsive steps. We're going to be evaluating the current schedule during this year, and we've built in extended student success period and activity period. We are structuring this common planning time, providing templates and meeting norms, logs, etc., having each team select a team leader to be the liaison. In terms of staffing, one administrator will be dedicated to 9th grade. The teachers involved in this are the core content area teachers. So we have 4 teachers for each of the 3 teams in English, Math, Science, and Social Studies. And support services, 1 counselor is going to be dedicated to each team. I think that will help in terms of making those connections and making sure that interventions are timely. Both support services and administrators are going to be working very proactively, zealously on attendance calls home, because attendance, as we know, is one of our problems. We asked TMS to identify students at risk, who are incoming students at risk. And we gave them, or we asked for 3 things. One was attendance problems greater than 20. Second was failing 2 or more subjects. And third was behavior, either many minor infractions or some major infractions. And the result was that it looks like about 1/3 of the class coming in could be deemed at risk for 1 or more of these factors. So that was big impetus for us to try to focus on this 9th grade. What can we do to really provide them with the supports and the instruction that they need? We're going to work on homeschool support and community support, and I'm very excited about this because we've had some ongoing conversations with LIST, which is the interagency service team, to help us. You know, it does take a village to work with all of the issues that our kids come to us with, and so this LIST, this interagency service team involves the Triton Police Department, the courts, DCF, the hospital, CJR, Youth Service Bureau, and so together we're going to be working on what other interventions can we as a group work on and provide, because as you know, on one hand we're under the spyglass for school age arrests, and then of course suspension. We're not supposed to use suspension, and we don't. That's not certainly our goal. So what can we do? What proactive measures? What restorative measures can we do? And with the help of all these agencies, I think we can really make a difference and make an impact. So this is really a work in progress, and I will be able to give you more information in September, actually, when the 9th grade teams had a chance to meet and work and be part of their own process. And that's where we are right now.
Yes.
2 comments. One, are you utilizing, Joanne, any students in terms of mentoring, that, students helping students initiative that they started last year?
That's going to be something that the counselors are going to help coordinate, yes.
Because I know there's a lot of, because I know, and in light of that, this is a personal thing with me because of my son, the National Honor Society. I mean, maybe you could revise some of the regulations for getting into National Honor Society so that community service piece that is required for NHS can be fulfilled by the mentoring. You know what I'm saying?
It should be able to be fulfilled in multiple ways.
Well, it wasn't
Absolutely.
in my son's case, as you know, so they got offline. But so that's a suggestion of one. Number 2 is I really respect the fact that I always see you here at meetings. I think that's just a huge just a huge indication of your commitment to your school and to improvement. I actually would like to see our middle school. Since what we were talking about is bridging middle school and high school, I would like to see middle school, somebody from middle school here talk about, whenever we have the small business community discussion going forward as we track this, I would like to see the middle school, I'd like to see the handoff, and I'd like to know if there's coordination going on, that you're getting the kind of cooperation you need at the middle school to facilitate and expedite and make this as productive as possible. If we can make that happen, I appreciate it.
We've been redesigning the whole transition from elementary to middle and middle to high. This is probably, at least I know, the 2nd year that we really tried to streamline it. So it's the efforts that we put from pre-K to K, putting equal efforts from elementary to middle.
I appreciate, maybe I'm the only one, I don't know, maybe other board members don't, but I would certainly like to see the same proactive commitment from our middle school administration when the board has this discussion, because clearly, you are picking up problems that are generating upstream, and I would like to just hear that discussion. I would like to just hear that dialogue if we have any questions about how the handoff, I don't know, maybe other board members don't want it and it's, and don't think that's so important.
Yes.
One piece of information, just so I have a baseline to work off of over the next year. How many of the 9th grade students of this incoming class, how many of them are ninth grade students that are coming into THS, and how many of the ninth grade students are repeaters that are in the ninth grade. So we know if we have 300 new students coming in, and there's 25 students that are repeating, I know when I'm looking at the class data, if the following year there's 300 students coming in, there's only 15 students repeating, I have a baseline to work off of that says this has been a good improvement.
When the data comes.
And
Exactly, that's what I'm
one of our
saying.
goals, to improve that, to make sure that our ninth graders
But I
become
just
10th
like to get the
graders.
baseline,
Yes.
so.
Right, yeah.
That's-
Have that part of the presentation.
I wasn't sure what grade that was gonna do, school improvement maybe, but because you mentioned it, I'm really curious about school resource officer and school arrests. I mean, it's something that we don't really get information on, at least I haven't had any information on. I don't wanna know what student it was, but I'd like to know how many we're getting, and also, I mean, I'd like to know, for myself anyway, I don't know if anybody else, but what the reasons were. I think that's important to know, especially when you look at other districts around the area.
Right, okay, I need clarification. Students who were arrested in school, or
Well,
just all teenagers? Yeah, who were, because
Well,
right now.
Just the SRO, or are you talking?
I'd like to know the SRO, but I think maybe those two numbers are skewed because when I hear from different places how many arrests there are, it may not be directly in school, but I would like to know the SRO specifically.
And I don't necessarily get all the information when students are arrested outside of school, but I can give both numbers in school and ones we know outside of school.
Okay. Superintendent's report.